So, the people told me I should go do something spooky for Halloween. Who better to challenge to a spooky Halloween Pokémon extravaganza than me, the real Dr. Kendo? I spent a year sleeping amongst the Zubats in Mount Moo. I've ridden atop a 219-story Onyx, and I've flown the skies on the back of a Charizard and an Aerodactyl. You might think, he's gotta be scared by something, but pretty much nothing scares me. Jesus, that almost had me going.
Hello again, everyone. I am Dr. Kendo, and welcome to another Pokémon Go commentary journey as we travel far and wide catching Pokémon today in spooky places. This episode's journey is actually a combination of the minds of some live stream viewers when I was doing my Monday Twitch live streams, and also my wife. The stream viewers recommended that I do something Halloween related with this Pokémon Go series for the actual day, and when I said that to my wife, she immediately thought of taking a trip over to the Texas capital. So you see on screen now our first catch of the night, Ghastly. Right now this Ghastly is at the back side of the capital, which kind of looks similar to the front side, honestly, but yes, I snapped a quick picture, which I can show just a little bit later, because it looked so cool with the addition of the nighttime capital backdrop. Starting off with no trouble, it really ends up being an easy catch for this Ghastly, although a pretty low combat power, CP 70. I'll end up transferring it, but check this out. Here's the picture that I just took in-game. Epic. I want to get into taking these pictures a little bit more, because that camera feature is a fun little thing for someone who's always enjoyed photography, like myself. But not too many moments later, my wife and I only took a few steps and were greeted by a very not-so-scary Pokemon, which is Eevee. Only CP of 13, but while I was on this picture kick, my wife, Mrs. Kendo, ended up seeing the Eevee on my phone and proceeded to jump into the shot for an epic little Eevee pick here. It was very cool, but then one throw of the Pokeball, a few shakes, and we're on our way again because that was a really easy capture as well. Eevees are great, as I often say, for the Eevee candies that I value so greatly. You may notice that the Pokestop that I'm first visiting is the Bicentennial Star, which is at the location of a star-shaped monument that commemorates the bicentennial of the Declaration of Independence. And there's definitely no shortage of Pokestops and monuments on the Capitol grounds here, as it's not too much later that we get more near the front of the Capitol and grab the Volunteer Fireman Monument Pokestop. This one honors the Texan volunteer firefighters who have lost their lives in the line of duty. I'll say again before we gear up to catch a Meowth nearby that Pokémon Go is an incredible game to me, and it's really just opened up my world to places that I might have visited before but never really known or even sometimes noticed these landmarks, monuments, and all-around spots of beauty or importance. This Meowth joins my Pokédex without much of a fight. CP of 236 is good, although this episode was filmed much more recently than some of the past ones were when I recorded them, so my level is about 23 here, I think, and as I record this, I'm close to 24 if I remember right, but I hope that you guys notice the amount of lures deployed on all of these Pokestops. This is apparently a regular thing that I hear, that the Texas capital area is frequented by Pokemon Go players dropping lures all night. I did also want to say, as we start to catch another Ghastly here, some of the video footage is going to have some glitchy problems. They pushed this update to the app that I use for the screen capture, and it's really messed things up with a lot of the pixelated choppiness on my videos. Too bad, but this Ghastly of 434 CP will be just one of the probably 45 or 50 that I caught that night. I certainly don't need to show every one of those off here, but notice also that there was one with a combat power of 198. I was in a pretty good position in that I could basically just immediately transfer any Ghastly that was below 350 because there were just so many of all different levels. So at this point, I just proceeded to literally sit here in the middle of 3 Pokestops all clumped together with lures on each one and catch to my heart's content. You didn't even need to move at all. While my wife and I talked the night away for a good long while, 2 decent Ghastly Gastlies and a Meowth are up next. The Meowth wasn't all that good, and I know that CP isn't everything, as you can analyze the individual values, or IV, of all of the Pokemon to determine if maybe you shouldn't just power them up if they're low in combat power. My main problem with that is that I just often feel like I don't really have enough Stardust, especially to power something several hundreds of levels higher. Not to mention that there will be a threshold that your Pokemon can hit where they won't even go that much higher up. I understand that, but again, I'm saving Stardust as much as I can, which is required for powering up, along with Candy, also something which I watch pretty closely. But as you'll probably notice, there's a Haunter over 700 here that's giving me some trouble. I first tried the Pokeballs and the Great Balls because I had much more of them to go through, but ultimately this Haunter will require me to use some Ultra Balls. It wasn't a good night for me with Haunters as far as wasting balls on them. I still caught plenty, but let's just say that I cut my raspberries probably more than in half due to Haunters and lost many a Pokeball. But now I can easily admit some of it is my own foolishness, and I also handed my phone to my wife for a few of the catches every now and then, and I was talking with her basically the whole time that I'm playing, so distractions abound. I'm gonna take a hit on some of my items. It's no big deal though, as the capital did have many Pokestops, and the surrounding areas had the same. One of the Pokestops was called the Rough and Romantic Riders, and it's a statue of a cowboy sculpted by a New York native who spent a lot of her life in France making that statue and then donated it to the Texas governor back in 1925. But okay, you're seeing some more craziness on screen with a really salty Haunter that just won't let up. Pokeballs to Great Balls to then finally catching it after a few Ultras. It was only 417, so the CP wasn't even really worth it probably compared to other Haunter that were caught or evolved that whole week. The past is the past, however, so I will let it go. You're now seeing a glorious moment of evolving a Haunter to Gengar though, and this would actually be the first time my game's account had logged a Gengar, so that is epic. It's not too bad after the evolution. The CP went from Haunter 737 and ended up with Gengar's 1123, but this next thing is pretty funny. Listen to me rage over this other Haunter that night. Jerk. Jerk. Stupid butt. Oh my god, the saltiest Haunter. I'm gonna use all the Pokeballs that I have.
Oh, okay, one more. If this doesn't catch it, then we're leaving. Okay, we're done.
It amuses me because surely you just heard my wife say, okay, one more and then we're done. Maybe she's the smart one, or maybe it's just my need to be a master that made me want to keep going when she wanted to stop. Just listen. Are you wanting to go somewhere else?
I was just trying to motivate you to leave behind. Maybe that's bad of me.
Alright, I'm not all pathetic. None of you can act like this hasn't happened to you. Maybe not with Haunter, but something else. Anyway, I caught it, and maybe it was worth it, maybe not. Perhaps that's up to perception. But now, a wild Cubone appears. 531 CP is definitely worth it for me, although before the Halloween event update in Pokémon Go, I had never even seen a Cubone, even in the sighting screen. So this is a great opportunity for me to catch all the ones that I can, and so after getting that 531 Cubone, speaking of other Pokémon that I never see, a Mankey actually appeared at the Capitol grounds right after. 202, not bad, but this is really just for getting more Mankey, as the only reason I ever even had one was from an egg hatch in my second week of playing the game ever. But the Pokemon just straight up came out in droves that night because of the lures. To put it in perspective, there basically was never a moment where I couldn't see a Pokemon out in the open while I was standing in that mass of lures at the front of the Capitol. But I am happy that I went to the Capitol specifically for this Halloween event, because I went from never seeing a Cubone once in this game to then evolving it to a Marowak a few 10 to 12 times actually. But this Marowak that you were seeing on screen was the first occurrence in my game from the evolve. Not quite 1000 CP unfortunately, but that's due to not really having Cubones prior to this event at all. I know people did complain in the comments section of the Halloween event reveal trailer, saying that it was lame that Zubat was going to be one of the Pokemon that spawns en masse, but honestly honestly, while I did have Zubats and Golbats before, I actually welcome them spawning a little bit more for the event's duration. And hey, maybe they'll include Crobat in the Gen 2 lineup, and I'll just have a Super Crobat ready with all of my Zubat candy. But moving right along though, another Pokemon I didn't have was Drowsy and subsequently Hypno. You'll actually see in another episode one day, actually out of sequence, that I hatched a Drowsy from an egg just hours before the Halloween event started. The irony of it all. But I still didn't have a Hypno before this capital excursion, and here's this one standing in the street right here. It's gotta be careful. I snapped a pic of that, remarking how small it looked, whereas if this were Pokemon in real life, the Hypno would probably be much taller than that, and we get a successful and easy catch. Good stuff. I would subsequently evolve a Drowsy or 3 to be much stronger Hypnos than this one was, but this was the Hypno that created the Pokédex entry, so important nonetheless. And on that same note, before we end off here, there's one more Pokemon evolution that I didn't have before the Halloween event, and that was Persian. So here we go with a Meowth evolution, starting at 415 CP with Meowth and ending off with 923 for Persian. I'd rather it be over 1000 at this point in my leveling, but since it's just the first one for me, it's no biggie. Another Pokédex entry down. All in all, it was a good time just being with my wife for a spooky night. Wasn't on Halloween exactly, but was close enough, and within the event time frame in Pokémon Go, so I definitely got lots of new Pokémon, lots of candy, and just a lot of good times. We leave the capital with a Staryu catch on the street near Hypno, and then a few of the same olds in my wife's car on the way home. Yes, she was the one driving. Don't drive and Poké-Go at the same time, people. I can also show off some of the images here, the ones that I took with that camera feature, but I did also I wanted to mention that this series will probably just be like once or twice a month from now on. There's just so much going on, and I know that this gets viewed a little bit less than my main series on my channel right now, but I really enjoy this game, and I know that a few of you are gung-ho about the series, so I will try to just kind of trickle it in wherever we can each month. But I appreciate everybody's attention. I hope that you got some good stuff during the Halloween update yourselves, and I'll catch you on the next vid, and thanks for viewing.
Around this time, tattooing the towns with my debuting of sounds, divine and wooing the crowds to climb. I'm spewing the words I heard in my heart, the hers, the slurs, the messages, they're his, they're hers, they're anyone's. There's many tons of songs here to go on.